make me laugh.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Actually Authentic podcast with myself, Candace, and then we have Awanda here. Hopefully y'all watched last week's episode, our very first episode. We had an amazing discussion. I think it was a great segue, intro into what we're going to be discussing. But first, let's tell you a little bit about us because, just to share. So my name's Candace Russell. I am born, raised my kids, everything in Delaware. I am a serial entrepreneur. I do all the things. I'm a realtor. I'm a life insurance agent. I'm a travel agent. I am a life insurance agent. Did I say that already?
You said that already.
You know how it is. So I do all of those things. I'm also married and I have 4 children. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. So I'm Awanda. We wanted to make sure we introduced ourselves so that you guys know who we actually are once we get into this talk, because we know everybody that's watching doesn't necessarily know us personally. So I'm Awanda Hodge. I'm 45. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. That's where I was raised. I was actually born in Germany. That's always
fun fact.
That's like my fun fact all the time.
And I lived in Germany before.
Okay. Yes, and Candace lives in Germany. See, we have synergy. But I went to Lincoln University, and then after that, I moved to Delaware. So I've been living in Delaware for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've been living here longer than I actually lived in Jersey. Mm-hmm. I raised my kids here. I'm a mom. I have 3 sons. What else? Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Yes. I have a juice business. I'm a financial advisor. I do life insurance, investments, a bunch of different things. I own property. So I'm a landlord. What else do I do? I do all the things. I do a lot of things. I'm actually single. I'm not married. I'm divorced.
Okay. It's all right.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm super good. But I think that's all the things that I do. I do a lot. We do a lot.
Yeah, we do a lot.
Yeah, we do a lot.
You might have heard some things mentioned twice there because we are business besties.
Oh, yeah, travel. We forgot about travel.
I said travel.
Oh, I forgot. I did. See, it just be so much. So I'm a travel business owner and travel agent. I do that as well. I love to travel. That is like my passion. I think I said that on one of our lives.
Yeah.
Like if I don't go somewhere every 2 to 3 months, I'd be sad.
Anybody who knows us knows that much, for sure. But everybody's going to get to know us over this time and just hearing our thoughts, our perspectives, our opinions on the podcast. So please just make sure that you like, like the post, that you comment, and also please subscribe to our YouTube page because that's where you're going to be able to see the full episodes. Okay.
Right. Not just a little snippet.
Yeah.
You'll get notifications when we release our new episode. And also please share with your network, share on your social medias, share the podcast. We know there are a lot of different podcasts out there, but we're hoping that ours is genuine to you, that is able to help you think through some things or think about things differently. So definitely share. Mm-hmm. But let's get into it.
Let's do it. So this week we are going to discuss basically like relationship. It's a relationships topic. So why is it so hard or so difficult for people to exit relationships? Whatever the reason is, why is that such a difficult thing for most people to do? I know that I can, even from experience, I can speak from experience saying that I stayed in some relationships longer than I know I should have.
Definitely.
It was various reasons why, for me, it obviously depended on the relationship, depending on the person, why it was so difficult to end that relationship. But I would say for the most part, you give yourself whatever the reason you want to tell yourself it is, that's what it is. Okay? Like,
there are a lot of reasons though. There really are a lot of reasons.
Well, first of all, let's back up. Why do people even what are some of the reasons that people even get to the point of feeling like a relationship needs to end? Like, what are some of those reasons that you think?
I think lack of growth is one of them, or just that you're just not not aligned, which is probably still a lack of growth. I think infidelity is one, right? If the person is cheating, that's I think a big reason why people want to get out. Finances, like maybe you feel like that person's not holding up their end or whatever. What else? What you think?
So all of those that you said, I also think that just people not even, they should have never been in a relationship to begin with. So just honestly, being in a relationship that was never serving to them and that they just stayed in for whatever reason, they kind of told themselves that they should be in it.
Or what you just said, unfulfilled, right? On both ends. And that unfulfilled can cover a bunch of different topics, like a bunch of different ways. They can be sexually unfulfilled. They can be just intellectually unfulfilled. Yeah, like I think that can cover a lot of the reasons why people want to get out. But I guess just getting back to our topic is, why is it so difficult to get out? I have a lot of thoughts and reasons. And even if I speak from personal experience, I can say probably one of the biggest ones is like kids. Like people are always like, that's a big reason that people use.
Yeah, like, that was never one of mine, but it was never one of mine. But that I feel like that's a lot of people's reasons. I think especially when we get to our age bracket, when people are married. So I know I've heard many stories over the years of people who were married and, basically wasn't happy in their marriage anymore. But the reason why they stayed or why they said that they were staying was because of the kids. So there's like this clock that, and I only really honestly heard it from men, if I'm being honest,
that they stay for the kids. But I've heard women say it. I have, but you're right. I think that women say it more as they age. Like younger women, that's usually not the reason. Like
younger women be like,
well, I can say like I can say when I got out of my marriage, which I was still in my 20s, and I'm being real personal right now, but I left my marriage for my kids.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want my kids to see that, right? Like I wanted my kids to see something productive. And so when people say that they're staying in the marriage for the kids, I always feel like if it's bad, you're doing your kids a disservice.
Oh yeah,
because that's what they're going to see, and they're going to think that that's what's good or that's how a relationship is supposed to be. And if you know it's not right and it's not fixable, I'm not saying that you should just automatically get out, but if it's not something that you can work on and fix, then you should get out for your kids. I think
I agree. I mean, yeah,
because then you're going to take them through living through all that toxicity and craziness and unhappiness. Like, why do you want your kids to see you and their dad unhappy for all those years?
Well, I could say for me, I had a couple of reasons why I stayed in a relationship longer than I should have. One was hope. It was hope for the potential of what I wanted the person to be. So it was like they wasn't what I wanted them to be at the time. From the
beginning? So were they, did you think they were that at first?
It was always potential.
Okay.
And those are those red flag things that we talk about where it's like, a person kind of shows you who they are, but it's like you think you see the potential that they might not even see in themselves and that they'll never live up to. But it's like, this person may change one day, or one day when they grow up, or maybe this is just a phase in their life. And when they get past this phase, they are going to do all the things that I want them to do.
Well, do you think I just want to stop you for a minute. Do you think that's a woman thing? Because I don't think men be looking at women for like their potential. I think men deal with a woman for like what she is, and they don't excuse as much stuff as we excuse. Like if you're not right, they're like, yeah, like I'm done.
I definitely feel like that's more common in women. Like we definitely will give somebody a chance to kind of grow into who they are, and we're patient through that more so than men.
I wonder how many times, like if we looked at statistics, like how many people really live up to that potential?
You never know, because that potential is subjective. That's something that you as the person are wanting that person to be.
Them, yeah.
And they may never be. So that's probably one of the things that made me like as I got older and once I made it through that phase, I got older and I said, when you're with somebody, you have to say, if this person stayed exactly how they are right now, and this is exactly who this person was, and they never changed a thing, would I be with them, or would I be happy with them, or would I stay with them?
9 times out of 10, you're probably going to say no. If you really have a problem with it, I'm saying, because even think about the person, whoever the person is that you stay with for the potential. If you had asked yourself back then, like if you knew then what you knew now, and you asked yourself back then, that you probably wouldn't have stayed with them.
But it wasn't even just a matter of asking it, which is, I guess, what we're also discussing. It was a matter of executing once you answer that question for yourself. So once you answer that question and you like, no, I do not want to deal with this forever.
Yeah.
Then the next step is saying that, believing that, knowing that, and being like, you know what, this ain't gonna work. And those are usually when I feel like you have those amicable separations, because I'm not mad at you. I don't dislike you or none of that. It's just that the man that you are, the person that you are, just doesn't work for what I'm looking for myself. And I feel like that's a very respectful and honorable,
very mature
conversation to have.
But you have to be at a certain place within yourself to even be on that level.
Absolutely.
Because I just feel like so many times, and I don't know if that's a learned behavior. Like, I don't know if that's something that where people are taught, like, when you break up with somebody, it gotta be like, it gotta be crazy. It gotta be like, you gotta be angry. Like, you can't talk to them anymore. You gotta be like a hard stop. Like, I don't know if people are taught that or if it's just how some people are, but
I think it makes it easier for people to, as weird as it sounds, because who wants drama? But I do think that it makes it easier for people to make that decision. It makes it easier for them. It's like if there's something bad going on, and it's like, you know what? I ain't dealing with this person no more. I'm done.
That's true.
It makes it easier.
So think about it. Yeah, if somebody like cheats on you, it's so easy to be like, I'm out. Like, I'm done with him, or I'm done with her.
I mean, but it's not though, because I feel like a lot of
if you're mad,
it's easy to say that. It's easy to say that and have that emotion and be like, you know what? But it seems like a lot of people do stay with people, and they do continue on in relationships knowing that somebody, now people are human.
Yeah.
People are human, and it's not to say that people get a pass for being disrespectful. However, when it's habitual, and I ain't putting a number on when it's acceptable, I'm not saying nothing like that, but I'm just saying that people are human, and especially when people are dating and you're not married. Like, if you're not married, that's a whole nother level of things, but people tend to stay with people that disrespect them, and it's so hard for them to move on. I was one, so that was my second one. So the first one I said was that people hold on for potential of what somebody can be.
And then you said,
which was me.
Get used to
the second thing that made me hold on longer than I should have was because there was just a lot of moving parts. Like, it was a lot of turmoil that was going on, and I felt needed. Like, I felt like I had to be there for that person, and every time I kind of almost felt like I knew my worth. Every time I felt like that, it was something that would happen. So now this person in my mind, I'm like, this person needs me.
So you didn't want to. So the reason was more so like about you, like you didn't want to feel like a bad person, maybe, for like leaving them when they needed you.
Basically,
that's probably, now that I think about that, that's probably a lot of people's reason too, which they might not even realize the other person might just be manipulating them. Because if you're not there, the thing is, if you're not there, right, to catch them when they fall or whatever the thing is, like, they'll figure it out.
Like, indirectly manipulation though, because I mean, I don't think it's deliberate, but it's just like at a certain point, when a person knows that you're not going to leave, or a person knows that you're not going to make that decision, they just start willy-nilly doing anything.
They do.
Like, that's when.
And you're saying indirectly, but you know there are some people that will actually like say that out there. Like, you're going to leave me while I'm sick, or you're going to leave me while I need you. While I need you, you're like,
all right.
But you're a crummy person. Like, you're treating me bad. Like, why should I stay and take, like, why?
I think that's like the joy that I feel being older and growing into like my womanhood, and kind of learning a lot of those lessons, and having to go through learning those lessons of standing on who you know, standing on your values, standing on your worth, making those tough decisions. Yeah, because they are. It's tough. It's tough. It doesn't matter how bad a situation is.
It's especially if there's feelings or love involved, because if you do, and even like you said, okay, marriage and dating is different, but of course everybody's at different stages with dating, right? There's people that have been dating for a long time, so there's probably are still feelings involved. And if it's not drama, if it's just like this, like you said, like you're just not where I need you to be, right? Or this is just not working out. It's hard. It is hard if you have feelings for that person to just like break away. You know, I'm sure that that's a reason, is like, even though you know what's best for you, you got to be really like in touch with your star player to be like, this is just not for me, right? Even though I care for you, like we can, I guess, still be friends or whatever you say to exit. But to really stand on that, it is a little difficult if it's not an offense. Right. You know, if it's not like, yeah, this person like harmed me, hit me, you know, cheated on me. And like you said, I do think a lot of times as people, and it's just probably a people thing, that we do turn that around in our head a lot of times. Like, is this a potential thing? Is this something we could work on? Is this something that will get better over?
Well, that's called discernment. You just got to know. Yeah. You just got to know, and you got to have some kind of values and some kind of foundation already established to stand on to be able to make that decision. Yeah. And a lot of people just don't, you know, we grow when we get to those points, because when I was going through it, I hadn't established that for myself yet. That came later. And, you know, that's just a part of the process of growth.
It's growth. We did solicit before we started this this topic. We asked on our pages for some feedback on what other people think are reasons that people stay in these relationships. And some feedback that I got was self-esteem is a reason why some people stay in toxic relationships. So that's a good one, because if you have low self-esteem, it's probably extremely difficult for you to leave something that you know is bad.
Worth. That just goes back to knowing your worth, and that, like, people who have low self-esteem don't know their worth or see their value. Yeah. So it's easy for somebody to kind of.
So another big one that was given was finances, right?
Oh, well, yeah. Somebody paying all the bills.
If you need that person to survive, or you need that person to help you pay bills, then it probably is hard to leave, even if it is bad, if it's toxic. I'm sure a lot of people, especially in this economy, or just in general, if they're intertwined financially with that person, even if it's bad, I'm sure it's difficult for them to just leave, especially if they don't have something, you know, money set up on the side, or savings, or, you know, just a way to fill in that gap. I'm sure that's the reason.
Well, listen, anybody out there, no, being serious, anybody out there who, like, if you're in this position where you're in an unhealthy relationship, or you're in a relationship that's not serving you because you feel dependent on that person's finances or whatever, then this is time for you to start changing that. Like, there's things that can be done to change, and a lot of people will make that excuse that they can't, or they, you know, they can't afford it, or, you know, bills is high or whatever. Yeah. There's options. Like, you do have options. So I think that's another thing too that kind of goes hand in hand with that, is people not feeling like they just have an option. And also, people don't want to start over. How many times have you heard that? I feel like getting to know somebody new.
So listen, I will speak from firsthand experience. You just told one of your firsthands. I'll tell another one of my firsthands. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why I stayed in relationship before longer than I know I should have, because I just didn't want to have to go through that all over again. Like, getting to know somebody all over again, them getting to know me all over again, learning their likes, their family. I'm like, oh, do I really want to do that? Like, is it that bad? But these are all things that you're rationalizing in your head. You know it's not good for you. You know it's time to exit. But that is definitely a big reason.
But what about the fact that you spend 5 years, 10 years thinking about that or that being an excuse. I don't want to meet nobody else. I don't feel like all of that. And then you realize that 10, 15 years then went by with the same person, and then you still end up not being together.
Yeah.
And then you still end up having to learn somebody new, date, and all that kind of stuff.
There so it's all an excuse. All of it is an excuse.
The sooner you make that decision to be like, you know what, everything's going to be okay. Like I said it before. I'm going to say it again.
Candace always is like, there's more fish in the sea. That's her whole.
I mean, I think because of experience. I mean, that I had one relationship that was like extra long and daunting and all of that. But for the most part, I just never kind of really had an issue moving on eventually.
Yeah.
You know, like if something's not serving me, I don't know. And maybe too, because like just me being who I am, like I'm a loner big time. So I don't get super duper emotionally attached to people like that, where it's like, oh my God, I just can't picture life with anybody else or I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different now because I'm married. Mm-hmm. So once you find your person and you're
locked in.
You locked in. So, and being locked in and being happy matters too. So it's like, I went through all of those periods. And then but I will say, when I did finally make that decision to say I was done with a relationship, it's like the most empowering feeling.
So I think that's a part of, when people were like, they see the person as like they glowed up, because when you do release that burden, you start seeing everything differently. Like, you're like, this wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Like, I should have did this sooner.
You'd be like,
I got peace. Yeah, you're like, I got peace. Like, or I'm just going out meeting people. It's like, now you're just people are just like attracted because you don't have that burden. You don't have that negative thing like weighing on you. So it is like a whole different person. You're presenting differently because you don't have that weight on you anymore. So you're absolutely right. This time, I agree with all the things.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think I might be kind of like the opposite of you, because like when it comes to that, like I can be such a lover girl. When I find somebody that I like if I'm into you, it's like, all those things. But because I don't like a lot of people, that's when it comes to like men and you know what I mean, like girlfriends and relationships. Like, it's not just about a person, how they look, or it's not about just, their status or stuff like that with me. Like, I have to really connect with you on several different layers for me to like you. And that's difficult for me. Like, I meet a lot of people and I'm like, corny, like, not like, So when I meet somebody that I like, I really like them. Mm-hmm. And that is difficult to just like back up off of. But when I was younger, like my cutoff game was real swift. Like, this ain't working. Bye. I feel like as I've started to get older, especially like my last relationship, it was really long and it wasn't horrible, right?
No.
So when I had to reconcile all the reasons why, like, okay, this is done, like it's time to move on.
Well, look at you reconciling.
Yeah.
That's what you don't do. That's what most people don't do. They don't sit back and reconcile.
Yeah, I do.
I
feel like I'm always mentally reconciling people in my mind. Like, is this not just romantic relationships, like my business relationships, my girlfriend relationships, because nothing is a standard. Like, nothing is a study. Nothing is to me forever either, because we might have been great friends when we were 17 and that was the connection that we had then. But at this point in life, like our last topic, is this serving me? Is this serving you? Like, do we still have stuff in common? Are you doing things that are offensive to me or over my boundaries? If you are, then I need to reconcile that, and you don't need to be in my circle. No, you don't. So I'm constantly, I'm constantly reconciling.
To your point too, like obviously, I think the biggest thing that most people can relate to is like romantic relationships, right? But this is kind of like across the board for all relationships.
It is.
I mean, I'm talking about friendships. You come sometimes to a crossroad where it's like, is this relationship, friendship, whatever, serving me any longer? And you do have to make difficult decisions sometimes to be like, it's not. In their friendships, business relationships, we both have had business relationships that we had to end. Yeah. It's no different than working at a job. you work at a job and you decide that this is not serving me anymore. What do? We give a resignation letter. That's not always easy. Because a lot of times you like, man, I've been at this job 5 years. You know, I got coworkers and my friends and da-da-da. But you got to make that decision sometimes and say, you know what, it's just not serving me no more. So it's not just romantic relationships. It's business, friends, family. It's all of that. So this is kind of like a universal thing.
It is. And we were focusing it originally on romantic relationships. Right. But like, you're right. We've just talked through it and realized this kind of applies to all the relationships in your life. But as you were talking, that's another reason that came up, that people stay in these toxic relationships for so long, is comfort.
Oh, like, yeah. They're just so I used to call it comfortable. Hold on, wait. Functional dysfunction. That's what I used to call it, because that's what it is. Like, you functional on a daily basis and you're making your way through it, but it's really so dysfunctional.
And you know uncomfortable. You know it is. You know you're not happy. You know how this person is treating you is poor. You know it's bad, but you just so comfortable in it.
I think that what it is that, and I just like, people, please comment. Tell me what you think. Because
what?
I think people really underestimate the fact that we only have one life. Like, we have one life.
Yeah.
So I didn't even, honestly, I never even thought about it like that until I met my husband and we start having these different conversations, and the way that we designed our life and our marriage and all of that was like, yo, you get one life. We do not get a do-over. It's true. Not, you know, it's like we young for a certain amount of time, you know, then when you get older, you ain't gonna be able to do some of the things that you could have done when you were younger. You get one life.
Yeah.
So what you gonna do? You gonna waste your one life away with doing stuff that don't make you happy? Like, that's why I be like, peace, happiness, you know, just all of that is so important to me, because I don't get to do this over. I'm never ever going to be 40. How old am I? I'm never going to be 42 again.
You're not.
I'm never going to be 21 again, 25 again. You're never going to be 30 again. You're never going to be those ages again. So it's like, we really have to embrace it and be like, listen, I'm making this decision for me, because I'm not going to get another.
You're just not. Well, you don't know. Even if you live for a long life, you're not going to get this. Like you said, you're not going to be at this point again. You know, you're only going to be this fine for this amount of time.
I think I'm going to be this fine for probably another 50 years.
You never know. You know, your health might change. You know, your finances might change. For a woman that wants to have a baby, you know, like, you have a time span for everything. So if you're in an unhappy or toxic relationship and you're a woman that wants to have a child and you haven't done that yet, you're wasting your time. Yeah, you're wasting time. You are.
So, question, because I feel like this is in line with this topic. So we talked about, like, okay, maybe that decision is made to end the relationship. You know, somebody got the nerve and got the guts to do it.
Right.
So what's your thoughts on spinning the block? Like, when, like, do you like, what, you know?
So I think that there is a time where it could be all right. So I'm gonna tell you. So I've let somebody spin the block before. I have one time.
Okay.
And it was because we were younger when we dated before, but we had such a good relationship back then, right? And it didn't end bad, right? It just ended because, like, we were going in two separate directions, right? But it wasn't like bad. Like, we still was cool. And we both grew, you know, we had a different point in our life. So it was like, oh, well, let's see. I don't think spinning a block can always be bad, because I think that when you're apart, sometimes people do grow, right? They grow in their own ways. And if it wasn't, depending on the reason why you broke up, I really think, depending on the reason why you broke up, that should be the
so, like, basically, if it's one of those amicable splits where it's just like, it's wrong time, you know, right people, wrong time.
Yeah, then I think you can.
Okay.
But if you broke up for, like, a character trait,
that thing I said earlier, y'all, if this person was always to be this, are you okay with it? And that's the reason why you wasn't okay with it, then you spin the block. that's probably that trait about them likely is not going to change.
It's not. Yeah, if it's a character trait, no.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think I've really
You've never spent the block?
Not never. I'm not going to say never, but I mean, I've only had a couple, like literally a few serious relationships.
Yeah.
And the only time I've really spun the block in a serious way, I mean, maybe like once or twice.
Yeah.
But that's what let me know I was special to my husband.
What?
Because Sam used to always be like, he when he was finished with a relationship, he never went. Yeah, he pretty much was like, that was always his history. So like he got with me, and like one time we had broke up. And
y'all see her face?
Yeah, we had broke up that one time, and when he got back with me, I was like, I knew I was different because I was just like he was serious about that. Like, I don't go backwards.
No, listen, and me either. Because to me, you know, once you offend me, I'm done. Like,
well, maybe it's because I ain't offend them.
I don't know what the reason is.
I don't know what the reason is.
Yeah, I'm just not. I'm in general, I'm not a fan of spin the block because I feel like if you get to the point where, I mean, in most times you're gonna try to work the relationship out while you're in it, right? If it's a relationship, you're gonna try to see if you can communicate or get to the bottom of whatever it is. If it got all the way to the point where we had to like break apart, yeah, we break apart. Like, we're done. And on top of that, like, I don't know if I'm gonna look at you the same because like what you did while we was apart. Like, am I gonna look at you the same? Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, the feelings and all of that is gonna be the same. So
I think with that, I think it has to be, generally speaking, it normally works out if there's time. Like, if there's time in between there where maybe people were younger and then they reconnect when they get older or something like that, I think that might be a better use case because, like, say you're in a relationship and y'all break up and it's been, I mean, it worked out for us, but that's not the norm that I'm talking about. I feel like the norm is if things wasn't good, we break up, and then a month later we get back. That's only because more than likely you were so used to being around that person and, you know, you're finding it hard to...
Your attachment.
Attachment. Yeah, there you go. So that's the word I was thinking of.
You just can't let that go. Not necessarily that anything changed. And so I think that is another reason for, again, our original topic. I think attachment style, and somebody sent this in the messages when I was asking on my social media what's reasons. I think that attachment style is another reason why some people stay in toxic relationships too. Because those people that have that like really clingy, you know, attachment style, like they have to be with somebody. They have to be like, they have to have somebody all the time. They can't take, they're like going through withdrawal if they break up with somebody, you know, like they just can't take it. They just can't, like they have that clingy attachment style. So it's going to be super difficult for them to leave something, even if it's horrible.
So how we've both been friends to other people, to each other. And when people are going through that, how do you kind of support them through that? Like, what's the support system look like? You know, because what I find, me personally, is that you know how it is, like where you can try to, from the outside, giving somebody information that's in it, they aren't able to really see it, execute, none of that. It's just they be so in the thick of it. So like, I know for me, you just want to be a friend, and that's all you can really do. You want to be a shoulder. You want to do all of those things. You want to try to be as unbiased as possible and just have like a clearer, open mind when you're hearing these things and all of that. But how do you navigate that? Like
other people, you're saying?
Yeah, when you're trying to support somebody else that might be going through a difficult time and trying to make that decision.
Yeah, that's kind of sticky because I really, for the most part, I try not to get involved in other people's relationships. I'm being honest, because I feel like a lot of times you'll wind up being the villain. Like, if you really say how you feel about it and they're not at that point, then they're going to feel like, oh, she hating or he hating or he just telling me that. Or people generally side with their spouse, even if they're wrong, right? Like, when they start reconciling, it's like they'll find a reason to make you wrong just because that's.
But I think it matters too, like what that person is sharing on their end. Like, if you're sharing with me, because, you know, listen, I know I've been there before where it's like I'm sharing all of the bad stuff all of the bad stuff. It's like, yeah, he did this, and then this, and then this, and this, and this. So you're loading a person, overloading a person with nothing but negative. Yeah. And then when they're like, what are you still there for? Then it's hard to not take that stance. So, at that point, it's like, if I become the villain based on a whole bunch of negative stuff that you told me, then you just need to kind of go be over there with it.
But that's why I said, like, I try to, when you said, what do I do? So, of course, I've been in that position a bunch of times. I have girlfriends or even guys that I'm cool with or family members that will talk to me about what's going on in their relationship. I'll listen to a point, but I'll also ask questions. I think sometimes when you ask questions, first of all, you bring people to the point where they can make their own conclusions because they feel stupid,
or they feel, or they just things they ain't think about, right?
Yeah, but they also start to feel foolish, because if you say to me, "Oh, Wanda, like my husband ain't paying none of the bills and he's cheating," and I'm like, "Oh, for real? Like, so what's good about it?" If I ask you, "So what's good about it?" Okay, so then you got to think about it.
But he come home every day. You find that one excuse, like, all right,
but then still, it's like, but is that what you feel like? Is that the only thing you feel like you're worth? Yeah. Or is this what you signed up for? Is that all you want? Like, I'll try to, instead of saying, girl, you better than that. You need to leave. I'll try to, like, just ask questions to try to help them come to their own conclusion. But I don't know. Like, outside of that, I don't know what else you can do to, like, necessarily support a person through it besides maybe listen, be there for them, tell them other alternatives. I don't know, because I'm not that type of person to be like, well, you can come just stay at my house, or I'm gonna try to introduce you to somebody. Like, that gets messy. I think that's messy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think in my old age, as I'm getting older, I'm like, and honestly, this started many years ago for me, but reflection is everything. And I feel like people just have to take that time, whatever that looks like. I'm not going to give it a time limit or a time frame because it looks different for everybody. But so many people go from one to the other, and there's no time to reflect on what that situation was, what they learned from it, just kind of just assessing what they just went through. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah.
So I feel like there needs to be some type of process of that, and a lot of people don't do it. So to your point,
it's funny that you say that. I've recently had a conversation about that, and I think that the thing behind that with a lot of people, especially when it comes to men, just going from one thing to another, is that they've already kind of been checked out of the relationship for so long. They're still in it, like physically. Maybe they're still coming home every day. They're technically with that person, but they're really not, right? Mm-hmm. So it's so easy for them to move on to something else because they technically really wasn't in it for like the last 3 to 5 years, right? They might have still been there physically, but they done already, they done already checked out and mentally did all that reconciliation in their mind, which again, why are you still there? If you're not in it to win it, if you're not really in it, why are you still there with that person?
Excuse me.
You need one? Look, you need one?
I think I'm okay.
But yeah, I just think that when I see a lot of people that go from one to the next, let me give her wine, you guys.
Sorry, y'all.
It's wine o'clock.
I'm sorry, continue.
I think when you see a person go from one thing to another, a lot of times it's because that relationship was already over a long time ago.
And that other one might have started a long time ago, because that was my situation before as well. A long time ago, many years ago. Same thing happened. It's like, we both kind of was coexisting. Relationship had been kind of done, honestly. But like you said, we were physically in the same home together. But he'd been checked out. He'd been over there with old girl like long time before that. And then I'm there. So, it just kind of got to a point where it's like, all right, the separation was just logistics.
Right.
It wasn't emotional.
Not living together. So it's easy for that person to be in another relationship, you're saying, because it wasn't really like an emotional connection anymore.
Yeah, that part was dead. So yeah, it just
understood.
But I will say that, and I would love to hear people's opinion, but I just personally feel like most women generally are the ones that have to end the relationship. Like, I don't think
one
it's not
of my other girlfriends, she always says that, like, men don't leave. It's a woman that always like has to really break it off.
Yeah, men won't leave, and I feel like men will just do them, or just get to a point where they don't really, they just checked out. You know what I mean? That's what men tend to do. They just be like, oh, I'm checked out, but I'll still live here. I don't care, because they don't have the same emotions that we do. They don't have the same emotional connections that we do.
I wonder if that's like something that's like a taught thing again, like, or it is like society makes them think that like you shouldn't leave, like, or it's viewed negatively if you're the one that ends it or you leave. I mean, I wish we had a man on here to actually chime in on that and tell us like what's the reason, because I do see that. I see that it's usually the woman that ends it. So
any relationship that I've been in, it's only been like one time that I can remember somebody, and that somebody was kind of like my husband. Like when we had that breakup, it was him that was like, all right, I'm appalled. I didn't know they did this. But prior to that, it was always like it literally was always like them just kind of checking out with me, but not fully checking out, like, and then it would be me eventually that has to be like, all right, I guess I'm done then. I guess I gotta be done, because you don't want me anymore. So it's like you kind of forced to make that decision, instead of that person knowing that the relationship not serving them no more, and just being like, listen, I ain't happy here no more. Like, I just don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
And so why we were talking about that before, but I think that I don't remember anybody breaking up with me, or I don't think I've been through that. So you're probably right to that. But we were talking about that earlier, like, why is it so taboo for relationships to end amicably, right? Like, why is that such a unheard of thing? Like, oh yeah, we broke up, but we're still fine. Like, we're still okay. People will look at you like you have three heads, like literally look at you like, oh really? I remember I say that, like, so to this day about my ex, I'm like, oh yeah, we're fine. Like, we're cool. Like, it's no bad blood. Like, we just grew apart.
Yeah.
What's like, and people are like, oh really? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, why did you think you have to hate this person, or it has to be like a whole knockdown, drag out? Like, it doesn't have to be like that. Like, no, it
not
doesn't.
At all. I would prefer that it's not like that. Like, it honestly, like, why can't we be cool? It didn't work out. I mean, there's so many other people that you can go be with. There's so many other people I can go be with. There's so many other people that were actually put here for us, and it just wasn't each other.
And I really think that this is the thing too. I really believe this, and I really feel this way about all my exes. It's not a lot of them, but I feel this way. If you really love that person, you want to see them happy.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not with you, you should want to see them happy. And if you know y'all gave it a go, you tried everything you could to make it work, you couldn't, release them. Let them go and try to have their happiness. Like you said earlier, like, we only have this one life. If you're not happy, and are you going to be happy all the time in a relationship? No, that's unrealistic, right?
No.
But if it's become toxic, if it's to the point where it's toxic, y'all arguing all the time, you're not meeting anywhere, let the person go. Because how are you really saying you love this person, but you actually just want them to be miserable with you? Why? Or even once they move on, and this is more a woman thing, once they move on to the next girl, like, why you gotta drag the next person? Like, why it has to be oh yeah,
she ain't even that cute. I heard, like, no, it's like, listen,
live and let live.
Yeah.
Like, why? Okay, that's who, or guys too, because men do that too.
I feel like men probably on the low probably do that more.
Definitely
do. 50-50.
Yes, they definitely do.
They be looking like, oh, she with that. she oh, okay. All right.
Look at him.
She with him, like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
Yes, he makes me happy. Like, what's the problem? Like, I just hope that as we evolve, that becomes more of the norm, right?
Yeah.
For people to be able to move on and still be okay. Still, if you see the person in the store, it's like, hey, not like you're avoiding them.
Yeah,
and, like making faces and rolling. That's so stupid and immature. It is like.
That's why I just think that, like, kind of, I guess, as a recap kind of thing, like, be okay, like assessing your situation, like determining if you're happy or not in the situation. Try to rectify it if you can, but also realize when it's just reached a point of no return and be okay making that decision to say, hey, this isn't working. Yeah. And then understand that it doesn't have to be a bad situation. It doesn't have to be drama. You don't have to hate each other. None of that. It's like you get one life to live, and it's just that, you know, maybe we thought that it was going to be something, but it turns out that it's just not. And that's okay. That's literally okay.
It definitely is.
But, you know, you don't have to wait until it gets to a point where you are disrespecting each other or where you got to feel like you got to step out and go make yourself happy, fulfilling those things that are a void in your relationship. No, you can literally just be single and you can date around if you want, or you can just do what you want without having to hurt somebody's feelings in the process.
Yeah. So, and great recap. I also wanted to add that I think probably more than not that these situations where it's so difficult for people to leave are probably mainly for people that have a lot of time invested, right? Because they feel like I've invested 10, 20, however many years of my life in this relationship, and I don't want to just throw it all away for whatever reasons, all those reasons that we discussed. I don't want to start over. I don't want to leave my kids. I don't want to start with somebody new, whatever, right? But so then it does start to become even more and more and more toxic because you're unhappy.
And it's just resentment at that point. Like, I'm here, I resent you.
You're resenting that person.
We're here conditionally.
Yes, you're still, you're time after time, you're still taking in all those things that you said that are probably character traits that are never going to change about this person, but you're experiencing this with them every day, day in, day out. It's worse and worse and worse and worse. So as you look at it, the years are still going. And this is just your excuse. Because I have so much invested. So now the years are going more, you have more and more invested, more time invested. You're making it so much more horrible for yourself. Because if you would have, at the point where you first realized that we are just not on the same, this is not going to work.
Right.
Like our characters, you know, the things that we want are not aligned and we can't fix this. Yeah. You probably saw those red flags back in year 2 or 3 or 1, right? But you were thinking about this potential and all this other stuff and let all these years go by. The years are going to continue to go by. They're going to continue
guaranteed,
to go by.
If nothing else is guaranteed.
And this is when you see people, right? And also I wanted to add in there the family expectations thing. Because people that, not me, I'll take myself out of this realm. Okay. Because I could care less about what my family thinks about who I'm with.
Oh, okay.
I don't care.
Well,
right?
I'm gonna take me out of that room too. We're talking to y'all on this.
We're talking to y'all.
This don't apply to us.
Yeah, y'all that care about, you know, your family expectations on if you stay with this person, who you're with or whatever. They don't have to live with that person. They don't have to go through that. So you add that in there, and this is why you find all these other underlying conditions that people wind up having, being overweight or they're sick or they're stressed, depressed, because you have to come home to this and deal with this situation that you're hating every day, day in and day out, or you're sexually unfulfilled. Who wants to live like that? Like, why you want to live a sexually unfulfilled life when you could be with somebody that you really love, that really loves you, that's into you, and you can have a full life? Like, that is a horrible excuse. When I hear a person say that, like, well, I got 20 years invested. Okay, but how many of those years were fulfilling good years? How many? Like, if you can't at least say, even half is not enough for me. I don't want to be with somebody for 20 years and we only had 5 or 7 good years.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think that's just those adult, mature decisions and assessments that you have to make when it comes to your relationship. You know, like, I mean, and unfortunately for most people, it doesn't happen in real time. It always happens in hindsight. You ever heard like hindsight's 20/20? Well, people always get through it. and then they see. So the best thing that you can do is like, I mean, if you in the thick of something and you try to get through it, and then you do get through it and you're able to see in hindsight like what it really was, it's about applying it going forward. It is.
And so that was such a good point you made earlier when you're saying when you get out of something to really assess it, right? And so if you're mature enough, or if you're still cool with the person, listen, I would let that person evaluate me if I really wanted to grow. Like, I would be like, hey, like, you listen, just sidebar. Like, what was difficult in me? Like, what's my growth points, right? Mm-hmm. If you're mature enough, if you really want to grow, just take the feedback. You don't have to bounce it back off, because that's that person's experience of you. Right. No matter what you think of yourself, you could think, I'm a great, amazing person. Like, I was a great wife. You could think that. But that doesn't mean that was that person's experience of you. Right? That doesn't mean that.
But some people, I don't know.
I'm saying if it's a
if you have like some respect for that person.
Yeah, if they not if they're just a bum.
Yeah, because if they was terrible to you and treated you bad,
I would never ask that. Not in those situations.
But yeah, I agree.
And if you know
this conversation, I've had those conversations before with exes, and I think that that's okay. I mean, you just want to know, like, what was it from your perspective? Yeah, because to your point, you do, like, sometimes we, especially for those who aren't really accountable or they're not really aware, we may not be aware of what we don't do well. Like, I may think I'm amazing. Like, I know I could cook. I know that if my man don't get nothing else from me, he gonna get a plate. But then I might find out that he didn't like something else about me that I just wasn't really aware of or wasn't in tune with. So I do think it's wise, or maybe a good practice, to speak to somebody who you do still have a good, relationship with, and y'all cool, that you respect in some way, shape, or form, to say, like, did you, what did you feel?
Yeah, what was your experience of me and our relationship? And too, so I will say, I think this probably comes more into play with men. I think you need to learn the love language of the person that you're with, right? Like,
I think that's universal. That's
it has nothing to do with your ex. Because I just think in general, and this, I might be being biased because I am a woman, but I think women are more adaptable to the person that they're with. Like, we don't a lot of times bring in, well, my last man, it was important for him that I cooked, and that was just the top tier thing. So this guy, I'm gonna just do that. Women, I feel like we kind of assess this person when we're getting to know them, and we adapt. Men, I think for the most part, don't drag me. I'm not talking about all men, but I think that they just kind of go about things the way that they think women in general like. So they might think, oh, I'm gonna buy her this, I'm gonna buy her this, you know what I mean? And think that that's just the thing.
So you're saying that men kind of generalize the relationships, where it's just like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We just gonna give everybody the same level of treatment, whereas women may say, they adjust according to what they think that this person wants, so they try to learn them a little better.
I think so. I think that women, we kind of, I'm not saying from the gate, but I think that we can adapt and adjust quicker, where a lot of men are like, especially when it comes to like financial things. I think that they think that most women is like, if I buy her, if I give her money, if I this, that, and the third, it's like, that's my role. So she should be good. And then when it comes to this break, or even say when you're breaking up, if you having this conversation and he's saying to you, well, Candace, like, what was your experience? Tell me, well, what you think I should work on? And you say, well, I think you need to work on, like, how you relate to the person, or your emotional side, or how you connect, or how you communicate. It's like sometimes they're lost because they're thinking, well, I bought you everything. I always used to buy you. I paid all the bills I gave. That's not the only thing, or that's not the most important thing to every woman, right? You have to learn what's important to that person that you're with.
I agree. Yeah. But I think too that men just keep it fairly simple in relationships. They keep it fairly simple. And I feel like women have been so accustomed to adapting, where sometimes they adapt so much that they aren't even doing things that they actually want to do, because we so used to just trying to do whatever we can do to please this person that we with. So
that's the point.
So I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but I do feel like women will do whatever they have to do to try to maintain a relationship, where men just keep it real simple. And it's just like you said, to your point, like, well, all right, we going to go on some dates, I'm going to buy her some gifts, or, and like for me, for example, maybe I don't need gifts. Like, I mean, who don't love gifts, right? But I'm just saying some people need that. Some people, so I do think it's important for whether it's a man or a woman in a relationship to really study and learn who you with, because it's different things for different people.
Yeah.
Like when I was with my ex, I did so much for him. Like I literally like did so much, like simple things, like so many simple things. And I feel like I was always just doing things for him. But then when I met my husband, he don't need that. He's like such a self-sufficient man that he can do anything on his own. He know how to have a conversation. He know how to send an email. He know how to research something. I don't have to do those things. So I had to learn how to serve him. Right.
But that's that whole, so I don't know if you ever read that book, but that's that whole premise of that book. But I definitely am going to say, I think that's a lot of reasons why a lot of relationships break down and they get to the point where it's what we're talking about. It's toxic and you need to leave it because of years and years and years of that person not understanding what you just explained. That's not my language. Like what you're speaking, you're buying gifts and you're doing this, or you're offering to send emails for me or research stuff for me. That's not how I feel loved.
Right.
Like, I don't need you for that. Like, I don't care about that. Right. Yep. So you're doing all of this, you're spinning your wheels, and I don't really,
and I don't even need it. Yeah, I don't care. It's not doing anything for me as far as you're concerned.
But over here, I have this other thing. Like, this is what makes me feel loved. This is what makes me feel fulfilled. And you're totally missing it. Right. And then time and time goes by. All that time passes. And then you're doing all of this, right? Because you're researching, because this is what you think. Well, this is what I do. Right. So you're like, I'm tired. Like, it's nothing I can do to please him. Like, I'm doing all of this stuff and he's still like unfulfilled. But you're not speaking his language, and now he's tired, right? He's checked out of the relationship. It's toxic.
End of a relationship.
Right, it's the end now. Now we need to get out of this because we've spoke 2 different languages all this time, and it's horrible.
Wow.
So
listen, when we get on the topic of love languages, because I do want to dive into that. So we will dive into that on a future episode, because I'll say that I didn't really know much about them until I got a little older.
Yeah.
So definitely. I do, and they really are important because they tell you a lot about a person. So we definitely got to dive into that.
Let's talk about that on a future episode.
Yeah.
But it was nice talking to you today.
This was good.
I hope that there's not too many of you out there just staying in toxic relationships for whatever excuse there is.
You get one life, y'all. You get one life. Just if you don't remember nothing else, we said a lot, and I feel like it was a lot of valuable conversation that we had, and we definitely want to hear your feedback. So, like, share this.
Please
comment, and please follow our YouTube page, _authentic. But you get one life to live, and make sure that you are making the absolute most of it. Make sure that you are spending it with people that you love, that love you. You don't have to question those things. And just make sure that you're in a relationship that's serving you and that you're serving them too, and that it's working. Because if it's not working, it's okay to keep it moving. You're not a bad person for doing that.
No, you're not. Definitely. Just like we said earlier, reconcile. Take inventory, on what's working, what's not working. I'll definitely say communicate.
Yeah,
don't just give up on it right from the rip. Try to talk about it if you can. Get some outside assistance if you need.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, whatever that looks like for you. But if you can't, then you just can't. If you can't, you just can't. It's not the end of the world. You can love again.
Love is out there. But thank you so much for tuning in to Actually Authentic Podcast. We really enjoy chatting with you, and we're looking forward to your feedback.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
see y'all
have a good evening.
Week. Bye.